So good morning, everybody. It's Justin and Lizzie from thirdspace Coaching. We are live on Sunday morning, 9 o'clock it is at the moment in the UK. And this is episode 43 of this Turning Towards Life project that we've been doing since October last year. I think I always say this every Sunday, which is that I'm really thrilled to be here. Lizzie and I have spent some time talking about this wonderful source that Lizzie has brought, and it speaks right into the middle of some questions that I've been in the middle of for quite a long time. So I'm really pleased about that. Thank you, Lizzie, for choosing this. Morning.
Hello everybody as well. I'm really glad to be speaking about this source today. It's I've just reread it before coming on here, and I feel like there's so much in it. So most of the sources we choose feel like we probably pick one line and then talk about that. And this is one of those ones that's just got so much in it. And yes, it's on friendship, but it feels like it's on relationship in general as well. So I'm really excited to talk with you, Justin.
So we're again in the midst of traveling patterns. I'm in London, where the heat wave of recent weeks has temporarily broken and it's pouring with rain. And Lizzie is in Italy. So this series could be, it's turning out to be Justin and Lizzie, mostly Lizzie travel the world, I think.
I know,
so
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
At least this time I'm not in a kind of a sou'wester sitting on a step at the back of some restaurant with horrible smells coming out the back of it.
Very nice to see you ensconced in a comfortable, warm location.
Yeah, it's lovely. We're in a lovely little hotel room. I'm here with my mom. And it's very sweet. So,
Lizzie, shall I read this one first and you read it second?
Yes.
Why not? Here we go. So this is this piece on friendship that Lizzie chose. And it's by... It's called On Friendship. Friendship is a mirror to presence and a testament to forgiveness. Friendship not only helps us see ourselves through another's eyes, but can be sustained over the years only with someone who has repeatedly forgiven us for our trespasses, as we must find it in ourselves to forgive them in turn. A friend knows our vulnerability, our difficulties and shadows, and remains in sight, a companion to our vulnerabilities more than our triumphs, when we are under the strange illusion we do not need them. An undercurrent of real friendship is a blessing exactly because its elemental form is rediscovered again and again through understanding and mercy. All friendships of any length are based on a continued mutual forgiveness. Without tolerance and mercy, all friendships die. In the course of the years, a close friendship will always reveal the shadow in the other as much as ourselves. To remain friends, we must know the other and their difficulties and even their sins, and encourage the best in them, not through critique, but through addressing the better part of them, the leading, creative edge of their incarnation, thus subtly discouraging what makes them smaller, less generous, less of themselves. Through the eyes of a real friendship, and in another, we receive a greater sense of self we can aspire to, the one in whom they have most faith. Friendship is a moving frontier of understanding, and not only of self and other, but of a possible and as yet unlived future. Friendship is the great hidden transmuter of all relationship. It can transform a troubled marriage, make honorable a professional rivalry, make sense of heartbreak and unrequited love, and become the newly discovered ground for a mature parent-child relationship. The dynamic of friendship is almost always underestimated as a constant force in human life. A diminishing circle of friends is the first terrible diagnostic of a life in trouble, of overwork, of too much emphasis on a professional identity, of forgetting who will be there when our armored personalities run into the inevitable natural disasters and vulnerabilities found in even the most average existence. Through the eyes of a friend, we especially learn to remain at least a little interesting to others. When we flatten our personalities and lose our sense of curiosity, friendship loses spirit and animation. Boredom is the second great killer of friendship. Through the natural surprises of relationship, we recognize the greater surprising circles of which we're a part and eventually find a wider sense of revelation independent of human relationship. To learn to be friends with the earth and the sky, with the horizon and with the seasons, even with the disappearances of winter, and in that faithfulness, eventually take the difficult path of becoming a good friend to our own going. Friendship transcends disappearance. An enduring friendship goes on after death, the exchange only transmuted by absence, the relationship advancing and maturing in a silent, internal, conversational way, even if one half of the bond has passed on. But no matter the medicinal virtues of being a true friend or sustaining a long, close relationship with another, the ultimate touchstone of friendship is not improvement, neither of the other nor of the self. The ultimate touchstone is witness, the privilege of having been seen someone, and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them and to have believed in them, and sometimes just to have accompanied them for however brief a span on a journey impossible to accomplish alone.
Ooh, it's an amazing one. Okay, so I'm going to disappear while I read mine, because I've got to get it on my other part of my phone. So here we go. Friendship is a mirror to presence and a testament to forgiveness. Friendship not only helps us see ourselves through another's eyes, can be sustained over the years only with someone who has repeatedly forgiven us for our trespasses, as we must find it in ourselves to forgive them in turn. A friend knows our difficulties and shadows and remains in sight, a companion to our vulnerabilities more than our triumphs. When we are under the strange illusion we do not need them. An undercurrent of real friendship is a blessing, exactly because its elemental form is rediscovered again and again through understanding and mercy. All friendships of any length are based on a continual mutual forgiveness. Without tolerance and mercy, all friendships die. In the course of the years, a close friendship will always reveal the shadow in the other as much as ourselves. To remain friends, we must know the other and their difficulties, and even their sins, and encourage the best in them, not through critique, but through addressing the better part of them, the leading creative edge of their incarnation, thus subtly discouraging what makes them smaller, less generous, less of themselves. Through the eyes of a real friendship, an individual is larger than their everyday actions, and through the eyes of another, we receive a greater sense of self we can aspire to, the one in whom they have most faith. Friendship is a moving frontier of understanding, not only of self and other, but of a possible and as yet unlived future. Friendship is the great hidden transmuter of all relationship. It can transform a troubled marriage, make honorable a professional rivalry, make sense of heartbreak and unrequited love, and become the newly discovered ground for a mature parent-child relationship. The dynamic of friendship is almost always underestimated as a constant force in human life. A diminishing circle of friends is the first terrible diagnostic of a life in trouble. Overwork, of too much emphasis on a professional identity, of forgetting who will be there when our armoured personalities run into the inevitable natural disasters and vulnerabilities found in even the most average existence. Through the eyes of a friend, we especially learn to remain at least a little interesting to others. When we flatten our personalities and lose our sense of curiosity, friendship loses spirit and animation. Boredom is the second great killer of relationship. Through the natural surprises of relationship, we recognize the greater surprising circles of which we are a part, and eventually find a wider sense of revelation independent of human relationship. To learn to be friends with the earth and the sky, with the horizon and with the seasons, even with the disappearances of winter, and in that faithfulness, eventually, take the difficult path of becoming a good friend to our own going. Friendship transcends disappearance. An enduring friendship goes on after the death. The exchange only transmuted by absence, the relationship advancing and maturing in a silent internal conversation. The one half of the bond is passed on. The medicinal virtues of being a true friend or sustaining a long, close relationship with another. The ultimate friendship is not improvement, neither of the other nor the self. The ultimate touchstone is witness, the privilege of having been seen by someone, and the equal privilege of being granted the sight of the essence of another, to have walked with them and to have believed in them, and sometimes just to have accompanied them for however brief a span on the journey impossible to accomplish alone.
I'm just enjoying feeling the kindness in what David Whyte has written here.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's really touching me about it, and there's so much to say because he has so much to say about what friendship is, so many different angles on this.
Yeah.
But it seems to me that his stand is indeed one of kindness. It's written through this. So can we be friends to another in a way that is witness to them and their humanity and goodness, even though, of course, there's all this shadow that all of us have. And there's so much of an invitation to be kind to ourselves in the presence, in the midst of that, to be kind, to befriend ourselves. And I think the part that I'm most interested in is the relationship with the other. But I'm really struck by that, to befriend our own disappearance.
Yeah.
To become friendly towards that which there just is in life. And I noticing that part in myself very much, which is why I just wanted to bring it up to start with. I was doing all kinds of things yesterday that I really love, and in the midst of my day had this very, very strong feeling, which I often do. It's kind of like a strong bodily feeling of I ought to be doing something else, I ought to be doing this better, something's off, something's missing, something's wrong. And in reading this in preparation for today, I remembered that I could also befriend that part of me that I fight against, that I want to change myself in order to meet it, or I want to change it so it goes away. I can just, no, that makes it sound too easy. I can befriend it. And that's really what we have to do with one another, actually. It's what you do with me, Lizzie, very often when I'm in difficulty, is you befriend that of me that I've lost contact with, as well as befriending in me the part that I'm in trouble with in some way.
Yeah, I think the part that really moved me in listening to you and then listening to me it is connected to the thing that you're saying, I think, which is the gift of having been the one who could have sight of another's essence. And rather than feeling like it's like us doing the seeing, and of course it is that in some way as well, but it's like we are the receivers of the gift of sight of your, so I am the receiver of the gift of the sight of your essence. So there's a part of me that sees you, and that's a gift for you to be seen. And then there's the part that is gifted by being able to see you. And as you were just talking, I was imagining that you were probably with somebody in your family, and I think it might have been your daughter. And I was imagining all the while that you might be having a story of needing to be somewhere else or whatever, that the person you were with was completely and wholly delightfully seeing you and being with you with a way that gave you, I'm imagining, like a route back in, because that person is there. And I feel like that's what this thing is really saying. We provide each other with a route back into something true in our stuff, all of our neurosis and our reactivity and our difficulties and not being present in all kinds of ways, and our impatience, and that in the seeingness we have a path laid out for us to find our way to connection. And it's not even to find our way out of the difficulty, but to find our way to be in connection whilst feeling joyful, whilst feeling depressed, whilst feeling anxious, while feeling impatient. Kind of see that somebody would say, even though we're acting out or being the nightmare, that kind of friendship allows us to make a kind of return to the connection that is on offer because somebody's being a friend to us. And that part that I think is super kind that David's talking about, where we subtly discourage and criticize the parts of somebody that has them be less than themselves or less aligned with who they really are. And the kindness of that, rather than putting someone's fault, the great experience is the seeingness, is the acknowledgement of somebody's goodness and of their good intention. And to do that feels like such a beautiful articulation of, I think, Justin, what we're always trying to do. And actually it's really not hard for us. I think it's one of the things that we have as a gift in our community, is that's our principal orientation. And that's why I'm particularly enjoying reading David Whyte, because it's like when you read something that is really aligned with what it is that you're up to, is being a friend. In this case, it's like, oh, I feel like someone's describing a world that I'm being cultivated into every day because of the work that we're doing and the relationship that we have, and that we have in third space with one another, and I have with my family and other friends along the way. And it's really beautiful to feel seen in that thing too, by what David's written.
I noticed that there's nothing in David's account of friendship here that's so often taken to be what friendship is in our culture. So I'm your friend because you'll make me look good, like in the world.
Yeah.
Like I'm friendly with you because you're I don't know, beautiful or rich or successful, or because I'm friendly with you because all of your struggles and faults and difficulties just reflect on my brilliance, or I'm friends with you because you'll make me feel better all the time, or I'm friends with you because it will have me be a certain kind of person. None of that's here. And what is here instead is, well, exactly as you're saying, Lizzie, something I know that we've experienced in our own friendship and in our wider work, and is really, really right at the heart of our work, is being friends. I love this way that you said it at the start, actually. It seemed to me that you really expressed something that's implied in this, but not explicitly said, which is to befriend another is to give the gift of our seeing them and seeing their basic goodness, their essential, the extraordinary something that it is to be a living being and to be a human being. And at the same time is to receive the gift. So it's to give a gift and it's to receive a gift all at the same time. And so it's not about here it's not about propping ourselves up, and it's also not about, I know the other side of it that struck me was there's a way of being friends with other people that keeps our story about our terribleness going. Like sometimes we can pick friends who remind us all the time of our awfulness, and then this is sort of like a bizarre back to front way of getting self-esteem, is that we friend ourselves up with people who will keep on showing us all of our faults and all of our difficulties, and that keeps our story going, and then we don't have to question ourselves and all of that. It's such a thing to see through all of that and to see someone's goodness and to stand by them, not in an untruthful way. Like there's so much truth in this, but it's a deep, deep kindness to keep on, as David says, showing somebody. Now I haven't got the text in front of me, so I can't remember the exact words, but standing for what is extraordinary and beautiful and precious and irreplaceable about them, no matter what is happening, and coming that way rather than coming from, oh, I know what this was. You know, we get to be friends with someone, but basically the project is, I'm friends with you so I can fix you up so you can be the kind of person I'd like to be friends with. All of those ways of being friends are so poisonous, and they're not friendship in the way that's constituted here. And you said one other thing, which is that how simple this is. And there is a way in which it's very simple, but it also requires us to put a lot down in order to be friends in this way. We have to put a lot of self-criticism down, and we have to put a lot of trying to have things be the way we want them down, and we have to open our eyes to, we have to start to become sensitive to the beauty of people.
Yeah, and in a kind of norm of spotting problems and trying to solve them and trying to find the thing that's wrong with anything and pointing it out. It's a very different orientation to take up towards, is to say, well, even if I can see that you haven't done this in the way that you should have done, or that you're not being the way that you should right now, to find the heart of it and to be present to what's here in terms of goodness and in terms of someone's, I love the way that David said that someone's creative leading edge, that the belief in and the witnessing of everyone's creative leading edge, like everyone has one. That's what everyone's doing, like believing that. And then allowing that to be part of the way that you see people is a way of seeing the person than all the ways that we might, and that we're trained to through the way that we learn are in our families and absorbing all the ways our parents did things and whatever. It's a really beautiful invitation to presence, to be in the encounter with other people in our lives and cultivating this witness to goodness. And it's a really different way than many ways that I see we're all living, including me, of course. And the ways that I get impatient and the ways that I want things to turn out the way that I think would. And realizing that there's a way of seeing, a way of being in the midst of all of that shadow, that I can. Firstly, I think I'm in great receipt for seeing me when I think about it and reflect on it, and all the ways that people do this thing of subtly encouraging the better parts of me and seeing me into that rather than criticizing me out of that. I think I'm in great and deep receipt of in my life, which I'm very grateful for. And of course, there have been times when it hasn't felt like that. And now in my life, there are relationships where I don't feel like that at all. And I'm curious about the taking as well, so that I'm not only expecting life to see me, but what am I doing in any mistakes? Responsibility could do, where could do extra seeing. What if I could bring more observant, reflective qualities of what is the goodness, and how might that help with this feeling of unseeness that I sometimes have and feel very strongly about as well. I think it's really hard to feel unseen. I think it's very hard to feel outside of this kind of friendship. I think it's very lonely to feel outside of being in our essence. It's lonely to feel criticized. It's lonely to feel like everything bad is being seen about me and delivered to me on a plate. And so in that kind of loneliness and unseenness, what's the thing I can do that's not doing the same thing back to the person that's doing that to me? And that's like, that for me feels like the real work that's really hard. It takes a great deal of forgiveness and seeing beyond injustice, for example, seeing beyond unfairness, seeing beyond being seen for something that's not who I believe that I am. And so that feels like, for me, like an edge, to use one of David's words, like, oh, I can feel my non-preparedness to do this there. And yet maybe that's the place that it's needed most.
I got thinking whilst you were speaking about friendships that I've ended because we couldn't find a way of seeing one another. There have been a number of friendships I've had in my life where it turned out that we were both basically trying to get something from the other person. And I know this very well, you know. I want to be your friend, but I want you to be this particular way so that I can get my need met. And if you're not this particular way, I'm going to feel annoyed and, you know, say things or not say things. And I've had some number of friendships where that's been the mutual pattern. In a way, it's been a friendship of deficit or a friendship of trying to make the other person. This can happen in a relationship like a partnership or work colleagues. This is, I think, the point that David's making when he has this long list of things that real friendship can resolve. So sometimes it seems to me that I had a story for a long time that friendships, you have to hold on to friendships no matter what. And I found out that that's not always true, that sometimes it's more appropriate that a friendship is allowed to finish, that someone's been in my life for a season. But I think more importantly than that, that there are people with whom the work is exactly what you're saying. It's the work of forgiveness. It's the work of loving them for their goodness and giving up trying to change them and giving up being hurt that they're different, that they're not the way I imagine that they would be. This is a much more profound move, is to start to do my own work, to see the sacredness of this person who's here. And of course, in the process, have both of our sacredness be amplified and brought into view. And then I was thinking, Lizzie, about, I have a couple of really, really, really dear friends in Australia who I see very rarely and speak to quite rarely. But when we see one another and we walk back into one another's lives, what's really fascinating about it is there's no catching up to do. The talking about the last 10 years is not the important thing. And that's so illuminating for me, because those friendships, which seem so true and so like these ones that David Whyte is saying, which is essentially it's sheer delight in one another's humanity without projecting an image onto one another, without trying to be anything in particular. What's interesting to me about them is it's not what's happened that's the important thing. Like, all kinds of things can have happened. And of course, there's a way in which I want to know what's happened. Sometimes there are tragedies and sometimes great delights. But there is a way of being a friend with another person, which is about the contact between the essential truthfulness and goodness of two beings meeting one another. It's interesting to me that history seems to me it's the smallest part of it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter on which brink of time we met again,
Yeah.
because something else is happening. And I think it's what David talks about in this.
And Justin, what's coming up really strongly as you're talking for me is that sometimes forgiveness can also mean letting go. To know that this form of something doesn't allow us to be the kind of friends that we could be, where we can forgive. So maybe there are kind of constraints like business constraints or relational constraints where we have to live in a house together, and that doesn't give us the opportunity to really forgive, because we keep being triggered in the same way. We keep being, same thing happens and one or either of us isn't able to resolve to the level that we forgive the other, and then it's like the other one's doing all the forgiveness all the time or something. I think there are definitely how we can forgive to the point of allowing the form to change and not thinking that's a bad thing. And ultimately the friendship can remain, but we're not in the same structure that might be holding us together right now. And that can be more loving than trying to stay in and make it better on both parts. And as you were saying that, it just kind of really, it's not like we're doing this for the sake of things all staying the same. We're not in it to make sure that everything is locked down, but maybe we're in faith that allows us to be discerning around, how do I make choices that allow me to be forgiving, so how do I make choices that encourage the better part of me, that make me more of who I am in terms of the relationships that I choose? And how do I let things go when it feels like there are means of me proving to myself again and again that I'm bad? And how do I move beyond the form that keeps that going and move into a space that allows me to, maybe it's scary too, to fully understand my goodness, to fully see that I don't need to keep something hanging around that proves to me my flaws all the time, but that I could let that go in peace and know that there's an agenda that needs to be held more strongly, like I would with another human being, but I can hold for my, how do I see myself? How do I have a contact with my own goodness, me to put myself in situations that genuinely are ones that have me seen by these friendship distinctions describing in David's work.
This is the point that he makes at the end, Lizzie, that maybe the greatest gift of friendship is to bear witness. It's the privilege of bearing witness. And when we're really fortunate, we find ourselves in relationship with one another where we can continue to bear witness. And then there are times when we realize we can't, and that the kindness is to recognize that. And sometimes it's to shift our way of participation in the friendship, and sometimes it's that this form of friendship has had its time. But what a gift, as when you'll know this because you were there a couple of weeks ago when we were working together and I was in some difficulty and brought it to you, and you bore witness both to the difficulty I was in, but also made this extraordinarily generous and beautiful move of reminding me that you trust me and you trust my goodness and my capacity, and what that made possible when you did. Like being again, so that I could keep going. It's really hopeful to me to be reminded, and I feel very, very fortunate to know this all the time, because my friendships are mostly this way these days, that we can do that for one another. And it's been a very, very purposeful choice for me to attend to friendships in this way, and to attend to the way that we've built our work in this way, so that the kind of friendship that David talks about is right in the midst of third space, and in the right in the midst of the way we try to do everything. Yeah, so I'm finding myself very grateful for that right in this moment.
Me too, Justin. It's really lovely. It feels like there's so much more we could say, that there's so much going on in this writing, and yeah, I can see our time and realizing that 30 minutes. I just want to say I'm so grateful to be able to have these conversations, to settle in on a Sunday morning in this particular way is very beautiful. I'm really grateful, and grateful that people are with us as well, that we're not on our own, and the kind of witnessing is happening between us and between everybody and us and everybody. It's very, it's a real gift.
It is. I had a very glorious conversation this week with someone I'd never met before. We had a very brilliant conversation, and then she said to me, "Oh, I've been following you on a Sunday morning for quite some time." And I'm always so touched when that happens. That this
It's miraculous,
does something in the world. I know.
Yeah.
Well, Lizzie, thank you so much. I'm ever grateful also that you mostly so far, although I'm doing a bit of traveling in a few weeks' time, that you have found a way of dialing in, connecting in, no matter where we are or whatever connection you're on, and you know, it can work. So we are planning on being here again at 9 o'clock next Sunday morning. And I want to say thank you to everyone for coming and joining us, watching later. And the other thing I want to keep doing is just reminding you all that Lizzie and our very wonderful colleague Sue Braithwaite are teaching the 2-day introduction to our kind of coaching that we teach in October in London, 1st and 2nd of October. So if you're at all interested in that, all the details are at thirdspacecoaching.com. And all of these videos are on our YouTube channel, and of course on Facebook, and you can find all of that at turningtowards.life. We'll see you next week.
Bye everyone, see you next
Bye.
week.